So I'm back at it today, working on these linear drains for this patio. What I'm doing today, now that we have all the pieces together, you can come down here and see this is where our drain will come out, and we'll tie that into the downspouts for the gutters, which will end up in the ditch over there. So now that we have that all laid out, connected together, glued together, now what we're going to do is go ahead and get this thing completely locked in, leveled. And usually I actually run these dead level because we don't want to deal with 10 different pitches when we're doing the concrete. So it's going to pitch away from the pool this direction. There will be another one running that whole length of the house. And as the water fills up, it will spill out the ends. I've done this successfully many times. It works perfectly. You do not have to pitch this like crazy. There are instances where you certainly would want to do that. But this, it's going to work out just fine as long as you have the right size drain. So don't go with those 2-inch small teeny ones. This is the Stegmeyer commercial size, little over 4-inch. Plenty to drain all the water. So what I got going on over here is I have my level to check that it's leveled this direction. I'm using my laser to check if we have the correct height here. And we are, there we go, dead on right there. So what I'll do is just slam 2 pins in to keep this thing the exact distance I want off of the house. And then what we're doing here is just putting some wood temporary shims. And then what we'll do is just mix up some bags of concrete. And we're just going to work it under here. You want a gap underneath. You 100% want concrete under this thing. You don't want to set it directly on stone. That will have the chance to settle over time. You really want a really strong base that this thing's going to be sitting on. So what we'll do is temporarily just go ahead and put every few feet some concrete mixed by hand, shove it under there, pack it in real nice. Just get this, up halfway with some concrete to lock this thing in so it doesn't move. That way, when we're prepping the rest of the slab and pouring concrete, it's locked in, and all we have to focus on is just pouring the concrete and finishing it. So, yeah, I mean, that's it. I'm just going to keep going ahead, putting some more of these in, getting it leveled the whole way down, and then mix up some concrete. All right, so we now have everything leveled and locked in. I actually just filled the end of it with some water just to see, make sure the pitch was all good. I put the slightest pitch on this thing, very minimal, but like I said, putting this thing even dead level will still work perfectly as the amount of water that it's going to be able to catch and drain out. So all of our shims are in. We went ahead and leveled, as I said, both directions, that way and this way, the long way. So we're just going to mix up some concrete bags and start putting some piles in and locking this thing in and getting some underneath here. So you can see I'm mixing this a little bit wetter so that I can really make sure I get this under there. You could certainly use something to vibrate this under here, which is what we will do when we're pouring, but for now, I really just want to make sure I get it all packed in there. On both sides, of course. And again, this is just to temporarily get these set into place. And then what I want to do, when I know it's packed under there, is just put some concrete into here so that it bites onto this lip. What that'll do is really lock this down in. And one thing worth noting is do not try and smooth this out and get it all nice and pretty. You want that other concrete that's going to be poured over this to bite into that. So at least leave it rough. Make sure it's worked in though, and that it's going to bite onto that lip. And then, if anything, what I usually do as it starts to harden up is just go back and put some fingerprints in it, just so that other concrete will settle in there and bite into there. But that is pretty good right there. The fact that it's nice and wet means I know it's going to be really settling into that channel. And what I've been doing is also just going back with a hose and spraying off this stuff so we're not making any more mess. And the other thing is either put some plastic up along the siding or make sure you hose it off, because that stuff will stick right onto that siding and bake right onto it in the sun. Learned that the hard way. Well, there it is. I mixed about 4.5 bags to get all this locked in. You can see I put piles at least every few feet, and then in a few spots I didn't necessarily wrap around the whole edge. I just put some underneath to get the whole thing leveled so you could step on it and it won't go anywhere. I don't want to lock it in every single place, because we do want the concrete that we're going to be pouring to wrap as much around this thing as possible too. So in some spots, like I said, we wrapped it up and over, and some spots are just leveled underneath. So I left this like this, exposed with a little bit of a hole dug out here, because what we're going to do is grab the skid steer and dig this out now and tie it in, and then fill all that with stone, and then we'll allow the concrete to encase all of that. So yeah, not so bad. Probably took a few hours to get all this together. Maybe total project time was about 6 hours for this 50 feet worth. So now we're going to go ahead and do the entire length of the house that way and tie it in at the corner piece.